As soon as he stepped into the room and up to the podium, it was clear U.S. President Donald Trump was seething.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
Fools, said Trump, of the 6 Supreme Court justices who ruled against his tariffs, including 2 nominated to the court by Trump himself, Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. Lapdogs, he said, an embarrassment to their families.
They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices.
It was a remarkable display of anger from a president told, in effect, he can't have what he wants. Those global tariffs announced by Trump last year, citing a national economic emergency, a cornerstone of his economic and foreign policy, now denied by the U.S. Supreme Court in a ruling that makes clear such tariffs are not his domain. The ruling doesn't eliminate all tariffs. Those on steel, aluminum, and auto parts from Canada remain in place under different regulations. Most other Canadian goods were exempt from the global tariffs because of the Canada-US-Mexico free trade deal. All that said, even with the court's ruling on the global tariffs, Trump had a plan B.
We have alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it.
Quickly announcing new tariffs under separate U.S. trade law, 10% globally.
It's a little more complicated. The process takes a little more time, but the end result is going to get us more money, and I think it's going to be great.
The new tariffs can never exceed 15% and must be renewed after 150 days by Congress. On that, already pushback, even from Republicans.
I think if he goes ahead with his 10% global tariff, that will be brought up for a vote in Congress, and it will be defeated. So I think the president is making a mistake here.
A giant unanswered question: what about refunds for the billions in tariffs already collected? On that, the court was silent.
This could be a mess, and this could take months, this could take years to litigate and to get to the payouts.
And on that, Erica, trouble already. The governor of Illinois is now demanding from Donald Trump nearly $9 billion for all the tariffs paid by people in his state. Remember, it's American consumers who picked up most of the tab on this. By some estimates, the potential grand total nationwide, some $150 billion.
And Paul, it seems the new tariff introduced today won't be the last.
Indeed, the president suggesting his administration will now look into ways to apply yet more further tariffs, utilizing yet more U.S. trade law. Bottom line, confusion and more uncertainty loom.
All right, Paul Hunter in Washington. As for that new 10% tariff that was just announced tonight, we're learning the vast majority of Canadian goods will be exempt yet again, at least for now. Ashley Burke on what that means for Canada and why many industries are still reeling.
Defeated in court, Donald Trump lashing out at his closest trade partners.
Canada, who ripped us off for 30% of our market. Mexico ripped us off for a big portion. Over the years, they've taken our market.
For Canada, the U.S. Supreme Court decision struck down one specific tariff, a 35% levy on Canadian exports not protected by a free trade pact.
We've always said it from the very beginning that these tariffs are unjust.
A win for some companies, but most products were already exempt and allowed to enter the U.S. tariff-free.
In terms of dollars and cents, Canada didn't win very much. We only had about $2 billion at risk here.
Now Trump's replaced it with a new 10% levy. And other sectors are still slammed by Trump's other tariffs that aren't part of the court ruling.
What's hurting the Canadian economy are the sectoral tariffs under a different American law. So think of automobiles, steel, aluminum, softwood lumber. Those remain in place.
Those range from 10 to 50%.
Donald Trump under pressure doesn't act more rationally. So I think we should all be wary over the next few days.
All of this unfolding ahead of high-stakes trade talks. Canada and Mexico preparing to review their free trade deal with the U.S.
There is the list of issues that they want concessions from Canada in the CUSMA talks. That was going to happen regardless of what happened at the Supreme Court today. And I expect the next few months are going to be rough. They're going to be rocky.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says that he hopes to speak to U.S. officials as soon as possible and says Canada is prepared to deal with whatever the U.S. decides to do.
And Ashley, we're learning some details tonight about this new 10% global levy and what it means for Canada.
Yeah, Erica, there are some big carve-outs. The document from the White House tonight says there will be exemptions for vehicles, sectors already hit by tariffs like aluminum and steel, and Canadian exports compliant with CUSMA. So you can expect that Canadian officials are carefully looking over those details tonight to figure out what exactly the impact could be.
All right, thanks for this. Ashley Burke in Ottawa. Now, as we've said, many Canadian businesses were unaffected by the tariffs struck down by the court, but some certainly were. Anis Hidari starts us off there as he rounds up business reaction to the shifting landscape.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruling against the Trump administration could be good news for this Ontario-based toy store.
I have shipments for U.S.-bound customers that I would be packing today, but instead I have shelved them, waiting to find out what happens, wait for the dust to settle and see what charges will be done.
Many customers unwilling to pay the tariffs, now ruled illegal.
I imported into Canada. I have a U.S.-based customer that wants it, and there's no way that I can get it back to the U.S. customer without it getting tariffed again.
A threatened 10% tariff could actually be a lower rate in some cases. Even then, companies face a rough ride.
We're not seeing the end of this never-ending tariff story. We're going to see continued tariffs. We're going to see this administration continue to pursue that goal and that objective that they have. And so that means we're likely subject to more and more blunt instruments.
Many Canadian exports were completely exempt from the tariffs just struck down because of CUSMA. But if that free trade agreement is not renewed, almost every export could face new tariffs, even oil and gas or potash for fertilizer. So economists and trade experts say a deal is crucial.
We were nervous about trade relations with the U.S. before today, and we're still nervous about trade relations with the U.S. because the president is emphasizing that he has other tools to impose tariffs, and it's not clear that Canada is going to escape those tariffs.
It's a lot easier to negotiate when from moment to moment, you don't expect the other side to say, I'm going to shut down your economy because I can.
And yet that's almost exactly what Donald Trump has said, with Canadian businesses watching to see whether he does. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.